be able to reach that target of 1 million membership. The other thing that we have also acknowledged as a commission is that most of the PR councillors are not convening community meetings. I can tell you now, some of us, since we assumed positions of being PR councillors, very few of you comrades have convened mass meetings. So if we can have community meetings weekly or even fortnightly so that we can be account to our community, it will also assist us to also mobilize so that the organization can grow. We also identified that as much as we are not church-goers fighters, fortunately I'm a church-goer comrade. So we said we must consistently go to church, not during the elections, fellow fighters, so that visibility of the organization is always there. We must also make sure that strategically fighters, we attend to funerals and get a platform. This must also be done consistent on a weekly basis. We also agree that, comrades, we must also ensure that we join community structures, structures that are able to appeal more to the entire community so that the visibility of the organization can take place. SGBs, CPFs, and other strategic community structures must be seen in the forefront, and this must be also done by the end of November. We also agree that in order to have the growth of this particular organization, Student Command as an integral part of the mother body must also play a pivotal role by visiting high schools, high institutions of learning, target young people who are not registered so that at least we can grow the organization, and people that are responsible must be the structures of the Student Command. Lastly, fellow fighters, in order for us, comrades, to also assist the growth of the organization, it's important for the RCTs to pay attention to details. Whenever you interact with branches in terms of recruitment drive, it must never be done through telephonically and all of that. We must be able to touch base as RCT and PCT so that we are able to pay attention in terms of recruitment drive. Fighters, finally, we are saying we must all go back to the basics and make sure that all ground forces are instrument of the growth of the organization. Thank you very much, Deputy Chair.
Thank you very much, Regional Chairperson of Thabo Mofutshanyane. Fighters, we are going to pause for a moment because President is about to walk in. So, can we get a very hot revolutionary song to welcome the President?
He was a man. bathi mina naye mina noshushu hewe savumelana 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 bathi mina naye mina noshushu hewe bathi mina naye mina noshushu hewe savumelana mina naye mina noshushu hewe bathi mina naye mina noshushu hewe savumelana bathi mina naye mina noshushu hewe bathi mina naye shushu hewe savumelana bathi mina naye mina noshushu hewe bathi mina naye mina noshushu hewe savumelana bathi mina naye mina noshushu hewe bathi mina naye mina noshushu hewe savumelana bathi mina naye mina noshushu hewe Amandla Viva EFF Viva Viva EFF Viva Greener fighter Greener Long live the Commander-in-Chief, long live Long live the Commander-in-Chief, long live. 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 Thank you very much, fighters. Let us all get seated. The moment that we've been waiting for has arrived. I want to take this opportunity to welcome the President and the Commander-in-Chief of the Economic Freedom Fighters here in South Africa, in the continent and the diaspora. President, we want to welcome you in this third Provincial People's Assembly of Free State Province. As mandated by the Central Command Team, this meeting convened as early as Friday with maximum discipline from fighters all over the regions of Free State. I want to say, President, in front of you, it's 629 disciplined battalion of Free State that have demonstrated that they are here for nothing else except the organization. They arrived here Friday. I said to them, when we gave them a directive that by this time, the closing of registration must be done. I think, President, they are the only province that met that timeline of 2 o'clock. All of them, they were registered. They are here, President. They've been engaging throughout the whole process, working tirelessly and behaving. We don't have a report from the accommodation that there were issues of misbehavior. So we are very proud to be with them here, President. As things stand now, we have elected the officials led by the chairperson, Commissar Pelile Coach Lipuku, who was elected last night. Thank you very much, fighters. The President and the Commander-in-Chief, usefikile uzosinikeza umkhomandlela. So we're going to call on to the President and the Commander-in-Chief to take the stage. Thank you, President.
I didn't realize. Mandla. I didn't realize the SG was taller than me, so I thought I was much taller. Thank you very much, Secretary General. We can be seated. And let me also thank the convener of the CCT deployees, our Commissar Piwaba Madogwe, and all the deployees of the CCT to this province of the Free State. Let me also salute the elected leadership and the outgoing leadership that the SG just mentioned here. So both the success and the failure of this PPA lies with the former PCT. So they are responsible until we sing the national anthem and go back home. And the discipline will require of them to make sure that all delegates go back home safe, irrespective of whether they voted for you or not. It is not the responsibility of the new leadership to make sure that this conference conclude the way it started. It is the responsibility of those who invited us here. So this leadership that we just elected, SG, they too were invited here. So they don't know what is the name of the bus company, where is the contact, where's the name of the catering company, nothing. So you get defeated and sit down. When time comes for any logistical arrangement to be attended to, it's you who got defeated if you are in the leadership to make sure that everything is done to the best of your ability. We have a situation where we know that in the conference of the EFF, there are no winners and losers. But the EFF came out of its conference united and as one in Free State. The only people who won this weekend was Orlando Pirates, so no one won. Because if coach claims that he won, he must show us a trophy. So there are no trophies and therefore you have not won anything. You have been assigned a responsibility. And those who held a different view to coach and those who held a different view to Mandisa did so because the Constitution allows them to do that. And that no one will take that right away from any member of the EFF. Actually, if you believe in the superior logic of your ideas, you never get threatened by those who disagree with you. If anything, you defend their right to disagree with you and then subject that to the branches of the EFF because they will take a decision ultimately. When you get defeated, you are not pushed by anyone to start disbelieving in your idea. But nevertheless, you must respect the decision of the majority. And remember that majority can be wrong. But wrong as they are, because they are a majority, you must respect their decision. That is the problem of politics, of organization and discipline. You cease to be an individual and you become part of a collective. That you express your ideas as the individual, but you subject them to the wisdom of the collective. And that once the wisdom of the collective has prevailed, your ideas remain those ideas of an individual and therefore cannot overrule the ideas of the majority. You want to continue saying, making us believe that Mandisa is right, is a good leader. It's your own choice. You've got 4 years to do that. But you don't do it outside the organization. You don't do it in a disrespectful way to the elected leadership. You find the creative way of trying to say to us, I told you so. This chairperson is going to read or give you an acceptance speech. You remember, this is the first test he must pass now. He's going to have to stand here and give you an acceptance speech. Maybe he struggles with one concept. He can't pronounce it properly. Once he fails at that, you press the one next to you. You see, I told you. You don't do it in a disruptive, I told you, look. Because you believe so much in this idea that we might be wrong, and we accept we might be wrong. But as things stand now, we believe we are right. And in our majority we are right. And therefore, respect our stupidity if we are fools. Allow us to be fools. Do not undermine us. Those who have won, they too should not be vindictive and want to abuse power by isolating those who did not support them. Because if you come for us because we have not elected you, you are proving us right that you are not a leader. A leader reaches out to those who have not supported you and demonstrate to them that you are actually wrong by not supporting me, because I believe in all of you and I shall prove working with you that you were wrong. You don't go after individuals who love and support the organization, who grew up with the organization, who had a different view, and they must be punished for the rest of their life. You know, in Gauteng, there is a chairperson there called Dunga from Ekurhuleni. He supported Mandi Samashewu in 2019 National Conference of the EFF. When Mandisa left the EFF, the young man remained disciplined member of the EFF. He was a regional chairperson without being a councillor. He has never asked to be a councillor or anybody get removed for him to get in as a councillor. Remained a member of the EFF, executed the task assigned to him by the EFF with diligence, delivered more votes for the EFF in Gauteng, got elected the provincial chairperson. Today as we speak, he is being discussed to be a mayor of Ikuruleni in Gauteng. He held a view in the National Assembly. The view did not prevail. He accepted the decision of the majority, continued to subject himself to the discipline of the organization. You cannot miss him anywhere. Someone must then come to me and say, no, this guy did not support us in 2019. Therefore, we must punish him for not supporting us in 2019. No. He held a view. It's done. And then he continued to work for the betterment and the growth of the organization. Why should we use the dynamics of 2019 to determine the prevailing material conditions in 2022? Because politics by their own nature, they are not stagnant. The balance of forces change from time to time, and forces realign as the revolution unfolds in society. And to base your analysis based on 2-3 years of tools of material conditions of 3 years ago, you ought to know you are wrong. If you are not a factionalist, you cannot be aligned to a view held 4 or 5 years ago, because so many things changed, including people dying in the process. So what are you talking about? So we must join the EFF and not join factions. Because factions are dangerous. They make you to cease to think. They can even deny you love. Because the lady you want is in another faction. And if you date that lady in another faction, you are going to a disciplinary committee of the faction because you are a sellout. How can you be a sellout when you want to be engaged with a fellow African, with a fellow member? Marx and Lenin teaches us that the enemies of our revolution is the owners of the means of production. That there will be the owners, in terms of class positioning, there will be the owners and the non-owners. And in this tent, there are no owners of the means of production. And therefore, to declare someone an enemy, you will not be using Marx's tools of analysis. Because Marx's definition of enemy is the owners of the means of production. Lenin argues the same point. Then Fanon argues it from a race point of view. That seated in this tent is fellow black men and women, and therefore cannot be classified as enemies. And if you have declared an enemy in this hall on the basis of not sharing the same idea, then you are in a wrong place. Because your declaration of enemies does not use EFF ideological orientation or school of thought, which teaches us to classify and define what are the enemies of our revolution. There's no enemy amongst us. So there will be those forces that hold in society irreconcilable differences with the EFF. And those irreconcilable differences between us and our enemy agents are in such a way that even if we were to die, there will never be a generation that will reconcile these differences with these enemy forces. That is white monopoly capital and the owners of the means of production. Then there will be these people that we have artificial differences with. For instance, the ANC. Our biggest fight with the ANC is that it is a lack of imperialism and colonialism. The ANC in itself is not an imperialist, is not a colonialist, is not the owner of the means of production. They've got no capacity to be such. Therefore, our differences with the ANC are not irreconcilable differences. And therefore, to position the ANC as a class enemy will be disingenuous and not using Marxist, Leninist, and Fanonian tools of analysis. Because where our black brothers and sisters lose track of what are the founding principles of the revolution, it doesn't define them as enemies. It requires of us as doctors of society to go and diagnose what is the cause of the amnesia of the ruling party in relation to what constitute the founding principles of the revolution. Once that diagnosis is done, then the prescription must be made to heal them so that they can come back to join the real struggle. And the real struggle in this context, it's a struggle for economic freedom in our lifetime. Because the generation that fought the wars of dispossession inspired the generation that fought the liberation struggle and won political freedom in 1994. Our generation, inspired by the liberation generation, should not forget that this comes from those who fought for the wars of dispossession. When they refused with the land, when they refused with the cattle, because they knew that the land constitute who they are and their dignity, that the cattle constitute their wealth, that the mineral and natural resources that the colonialists were taking from them is taking away their wealth, and they were not going to allow that. So the struggle was inspired by the reclaiming of that which was stolen from us. That's what brings us here. The people out there, they don't care who's going to be the chairperson of the province. The people out there, they don't care who's going to be elected into the PCT of the EFF. The people out there who don't have water, they are worried about what is going to be the resolution of the EFF in relation to the resolution of water crisis. That in Free State we are next to Lesotho, and that Lesotho gives water to South Africa, but this water passes the whole Free State and goes to Gauteng. How do we ensure that before this water arrives in Gauteng, since it comes from Lesotho, it makes an off-ramp into dropping water in Free State before it goes into Gauteng? So many young people in this province are unemployed. They don't care about who is going to be the secretary and all of that. They care about how are you going to resolve the problem of unemployment, in particular amongst young graduates who go to school for so many years only to be unemployed and get 350. Did you, in your commission, resolve that because government can give people 350, let's get money, those grants, according to the level of our qualifications? Why is it blanket 350? Because 350 must go to the ones who have not gone to school. Matric, 450. First degree, 2.5. Second degree, 5,000. Like that. We get paid according to our qualification. Because if we're going to go to school, all of us, and then I graduate, you have not been to school, we are treated the same. What is the point I must go to school? I would rather just stay at home because we are not going to get a job, all of us, whether educated or not educated, and we are going to get 350, whether educated or not educated. You didn't discuss it because you are obsessed with names of individuals as to who's going to become what. We have a problem of huge killing and raping of women. In South Africa, we are battling with trying to find a permanent solution to this problem of killing of women and raping of women. Did the EFF in Free State discuss that? And if they did, what is their resolution in relation to GBV and how we are going to resolve it? 2 provinces are meeting of the EFF today. One of the Eastern Cape elect the top 5. All of the top 5 is males. What are they saying? That this man, because the biggest problem in South Africa today, alongside unemployment, is the killing and the abusing of women. They are saying, these men, 5 of them, they must go and sit and try to resolve the killing of women without women's input. You say to women, you can lead them, you can provide solution to them, you as the EFF. What do? You come to a provincial conference with more women in that provincial conference, elect a man against a woman. I have no problem with that, it's your choice. But what message are you sending? The only province that had the only woman in the whole country, you know what you did now? The whole of South Africa has got no female chairperson. So you ought to think about these decisions that you take. That's why I don't speak before you elect, so that you don't say he came to influence us. I wait for you to elect so that I can tell you the truth, even if there's nothing I can do about it, but I'll sleep knowing that you have committed suicide on your own. Five men in Eastern Cape. 5. No woman. They don't see anything wrong. Are you saying in a conference of how many delegates in the Eastern Cape SG? 1,400. There's no single woman to qualify to be in the top 5. At least here you tried to fix it up and make it look nice. It's not worse than what I saw where I come from. This is much better. Because there should never be any structure of the EFF without women. If you are committed to solving the problems of women, women are the most oppressed people in South Africa. They've been during apartheid, they are now. And the EFF then comes with patriarchy and masculinity and defeat women and tell them in not so many ways, EFF is not your home. It's a home of men. Because you don't have to say it. We're tired of words. We are more interested in action. So, comrades, as we go into additionals with this long list of slate of 50 people, where you can't even find each other, in that madness of 50 candidates, whatever you do, make sure you come out with women. Because if you don't come out with women to meet the constitutional requirement of 50-50, we are going to drop the last males and take up the women who are following those males that we are going to drop. Eastern Cape, today, it has now taught us, SG, that we need to introduce a constitutional clause in the EFF constitution that in the officials there must not be less than 2 women in the top 5. If we fail, we must have 2. Otherwise, if we don't take this deliberate decision, women empowerment is going to be undermined by the so-called democracy. Sankara teaches us about that there will never be a genuine and true revolution without women's emancipation. You come here, you don't want women. On the other side, you want BEE. Women like BEE It's a deliberate intervention to reverse the legacy of apartheid. It was a conscious decision of the apartheid government to exclude women. It must be a conscious decision of a democratic, socialist, leftist movement to include women. It was a deliberate decision by the government of the day that time to exclude black people from the economy. It is our responsibility now to deliberately put the black people in the economy. I'm not shocked that in the Eastern Cape more women are delegates, yet there is no woman in the top 5. The same thing now is going into the BEE. Those men who are black and are beneficiaries of the BEE, they are now making a call that we must cancel BEE in ESCOM because they ate. They are full. After going on top, they kick the step ladder that no one must come up. It is a tendency that we must never accept. But when there is a law to empower black people deliberately, a black person comes and says, we don't need BEE. Imagine Patrice Motsepe saying, we don't need BEE, when he's a complete beneficiary of BEE. We must never listen to such statement of self-hate. Women of Free State and the Eastern Cape and all over South Africa, no one is going to come from Sishiwa and liberate you. You are your own liberators. The same as black people. No one is going to come from anywhere to liberate black people. You are your own liberators. Look at Free State. A mess, a high mess of corruption. With storage spilling all over, with children playing with debt and getting sick. In the same ward where we went to look at the sewer system, those people, more than 60% of them vote for the ANC. What do they want? You go to Eastern Cape, it's worse in everything. The ANC gets between 70 and 80%. What do they want? Because where I come from, there is no sewer spillage. They are sitting on a pain that they themselves hear it and do nothing about it. And want to cry foul that no, these politicians are not doing anything for us. What do you mean these politicians are not doing anything for us when you are the one who's making the politicians to be who they are? You have all the power to punish politicians. You give them power. Mangaung, Bloemfontein, as it was named by the Boers, a place of flowers and roses, has become a place of Masepa under the watch of the ANC, and you allow them to do that. So what do the people of Bloemfontein and Free State and Mangaung want? When they've got the power to change, maybe that's what they enjoy. You might be fighting for people who don't see anything wrong with indignity. So much corruption in the RDP houses, so much corruption in the tendering system, so much corruption in the employment system. You yourself know these people who are hiring, their relatives, their girlfriends, their boyfriends, and all of that. They are well known here in Bloemfontein. But the same people who know these criminals go and vote for the same criminals. Have we not reached a point where the voters themselves must look at themselves and decide what they want? This nonsense that you vote with DA in Joburg or Metsimahulu. They say, no, you sold out. The EFF sold out the people of Mangaung. No, it is not the EFF that decided to create an undecisiveness in Metsimahulu. If people don't want to decide who must govern them, then they must know they are stuck with this problem forever. It's not our problem. Let communities decide. Because this indecisiveness, why are we made to take responsibility for it? As if voters have got no responsibility in the mess they create in Johannesburg, in Tshwane, in Ikuruleni. It is a mess of their own. And what they leave us with is now political maneuvering and survival. When we do that, some political analyst with no teeth wants to come on TV and say, you can't even hear what they are saying. We're sitting with pain here. We're trying to find what is the best solution to make this municipality survive in the interest of our people on a mess that is not created by us. We're trying to fix it. South Africa must decide what they want. They must know in 2024, if they give us the mess they gave us in Metsimaholo, in Joburg, Tshwane, and then the whole South Africa will be like this, where you sleep and don't know if the president will be a president tomorrow. Because the political maneuvering might remove the president. So fighters, ours is to build a solid organization. Solid like a rock, an organization that will not be easily infiltrated by agent provocateurs and staff riders. We need to build an organization that is loyal to itself. When we have taken a decision here to elect this leadership, whether you are agreeing with them or you are not agreeing with them, you have joined an organization that is governed by democratic centralism. The decision of an upper structure is binding on all of us. There is only one chairperson, and that chairperson is coach. Whether you like it or not, there is nothing you can do about it. Yeah. You must start practicing it to avoid high blood and high sugar levels. Because if you want to personalize it, you are inviting hospital in your life. Taking political issues and personalizing them and want to treat them like they are some item in your kitchen. Agro atsiba motho aga tja tap away ka kwa wena ka mola. Aga sfite Metsimaholo. We buche tap away ye wonkole botse. Ase tap away yawe. Mo utlile o tseba hore o tlo wina or ba tlo shashara. O swantse o tshware di speech tse pedi. Skaba ba re shishimisha. Skaba re bora. What's ba ke be ke tshwere 350 aya shema le sawanalizer if edile is done. So if you are analyzing and over analyzing it, it's called a self-inflicted pain. You must learn to let go. It's water under the bridge. There is nothing you can do about it. Those of you who are in the legislature, who are in the council and you have lost, you are not going to resign. That is not your job. That is not an employment. You were sent by the EFF. You will wait there until the EFF gives you another instruction. You are not employed. You can't resign as a member of the provincial legislature in the same letter write, I remain a disciplined and a loyal member. There is no loyal member who resigns from legislature without a permission or a decision of the organization. You can't treat it as your own. We have sent you there. We will come and recall you. Don't even panic about it. When it comes, you must say, the day I came in, it is the day I prepared exit. Because I knew this position is not permanent and it's not my position. It belongs to the EFF. When you are a member of the organization, you have a responsibility to pay 10 rand to get a card. It's not enough. Now that you have joined, you've got two important things to do. is to be disciplined and loyal. You can't resign from legislature and say, I am loyal and disciplined without the permission of the organization. Anyone who thinks that you are loyal and disciplined, even when you have not told the leadership or when you are not told by the leadership, you deserve each other. And you don't deserve to be members of the EFF. Members of the EFF are like soldiers. When you are sent on a mission, the only thing that will stop you from that mission is when a new command has been given for you to retreat. Otherwise, you are going to come dead or you are going to come back with victory. Those are the two things that you are sent to perform. Anyone who defines himself outside the organization must be isolated by all of us. That you think you are smart, you think you are better than the organization. The parliament has passed a law of independent candidates. You want to be independent, go be independent there. There are no independent candidates in the EFF. When you join an organization, you join as an individual like this. But once you have joined, you become part of the collective. That's why when we sing Nkosi Sikelele Africa, we raise a fist. That fist is a sign of unity, that we have come together. You can think as an individual, but once the majority have taken a decision, you are subjected to that decision, because the individual views are subject to the wisdom of the majority. That's what makes you disciplined and loyal. I don't like this decision. I don't like even me standing here with the EFF voting for the DA. But there's nothing I can do, because they say it's a tactical move. Let me go with it. They don't give me water because the things I say, they don't agree with, you see. If they were agreeing with me, they were going to give me even juice. But that is what the least I can do is to subject myself to the discipline of organization and continue to fight from within. Fighters, the newly elected leaders, you found us with the votes here in Free State, which are not impressive. Why the EFF cannot pass the mark of beyond 100,000 in Free State is something else. You are holding us back. If there is a province that is holding us back, it's Free State. You are not coming to the party. Please come to the party. Because without Free State, we will not take this country in 2024. You are actually number msila, number last, when it comes to the numbers contribution into the votes of the EFF. Free State is number last. You are in the same category with Mpumalanga, which has now outdone itself and is performing very well. These comrades who are elected today, they have a simple task to maintain our numbers. If they failed, they must maintain those numbers. We don't want to lose a single vote from the numbers they found us with. The second biggest option they have is to double and triple those numbers and make the EFF a government in Free State. How do you do that? Go to the ground. The people of Free State are tired of the ANC, but they don't know the alternative. The alternative must go to the ground. You must be found everywhere. You know, there's a guy who was a chairperson of Western Cape who was outvoted in Western Cape. One day the deputy president said to him, you must go to Stellenbosch. He stays in Cape Town. From Cape Town to Stellenbosch is 45 minutes. He says to the deputy president, Stellenbosch is too far. But he's a provincial chairperson. How can a place in your province as a chair be far? How can Harib be far? There's no place here, chairperson. If you didn't know when you said you are available, you didn't know you are available to what? You were available to be a resident of Kwakwa. That's what you are available to. You are available to be a resident of the whole province. All four corners of this province must be a stage for you to perform for the EFF. If you spend the whole week in your own region, in your own sub-region, whereas in your own ward, and call yourself a provincial chairperson, you are a fake of note. How can your ward be a province? The whole week. I can't spend the whole week in one place. I was in Eastern Cape this morning. I'm here now. Tomorrow I'm in Cape Town. I don't have a reason to complain because I agreed to be the president of the EFF and therefore the country is my home. So you are being made a chairperson of Lijo Luputso. Whereas you are even a councillor, you behave like Lijo Luputso is the size of America. Our region is too big. Big to what? Why were you agreeing to be a chair? Being a chair is exactly that. Being a provincial leader is exactly that. If it means you getting into a taxi to go and execute your task, do exactly that. It's your job. You can't accept because you think we are in some game here of beauty contest. Are you available? Yes. And then tomorrow they say, hey, Huck, go to the border there is a problem. Or, how am I going to arrive there? When you were available, you didn't know how you were going to arrive there. Why did you say you are available? Because available did not mean, are you available to come and sit on the stage? It meant, are you available to topple the ANC? Are you available to topple Ace Makashule's remnants in power? Are you available to take on the racist Afrikaners in Free State and make the EFF a force to be reckoned with? Are you available to sacrifice your Sunday like you did today? If you look at the WhatsApp status of your friends, if you look at their social media status of your friends, they are buying, they are sitting with their families, they say they meet after church. You sacrificed all of that to be here. But you must know that it is only one Sunday. Once you say I'm available, it's your life. You don't know what your children's favorite colors. That one day you go home, children shock you, they know new concepts. You're like, what? Because, like us who are married, we've got 2 wives. And my wife understand I've got, and literally the first wife that I married before her, she can't give me problems. When she came into my life, she found my wife, the EFF. And she agreed to be the second wife to the EFF. So, I shall service my first wife. She's a priority. She is the one who made me to meet her and be in a position to marry her and provide for her and my children. The day they make me not to serve my first wife, the EFF, there's a possibility of not having a meal at home. Because this meal is provided by my first wife. So when you get into this relationship with the EFF, you must know that you have an obligation to service it because you have said to the nation, I will look after you the same way I will look after my family. And you dare not fail. So, leadership is what is required from you. 27 years in prison without seeing his 2 daughters, Nelson Mandela. 27 years. We are not asking for your 27 years. We are asking for your 4 years of sacrifice and make Free State a better province. 27 years, 2 daughters. The only contact you have with your daughters is through letters. What a sacrifice. So, you are asked for 4 years. You lose a position in the EFF. This EFF must die. Issue ile EFF yo bumandisa bakhethwa bayo bayiqedile. Haratlela di position mo. Re tletse EFF. When I was in the ANC and they tormented me and harassed me anyhow they wanted, I never left the ANC. The pain they caused me, taking my homes and the beds of my children where they're supposed to sleep, I never hated them. I said to them, out of discipline and loyalty, take all the positions, remove me and suspend me from contesting for any position in 10 years, but leave me with the membership. For because I knew I didn't join the ANC for material gain, I didn't join the ANC for positions, I joined ANC for the ideas. When they now came for the ideas and suppressed the idea for economic freedom in our lifetime, I had to find an alternative where this cause will be advocated from. Why did I do that? Why did I stay with people who didn't want me? I learned that from Winnie Mandela. That when they were in prison, when they were underground, when they were in exile, in the 80s, no one was allowed to shout Amandla, Viva ANC. It was Winnie Mandela alone who could do that in defiance of the police. No one in the 80s was allowed to raise the flag of the ANC. Winnie Mandela was the only one who could raise the flag of the ANC in the 80s. What did they do when they came back? They sidelined her. They called her all manner of names. She was never a president. She was never a minister. She was a deputy minister, which the ex-husband fired her for no reason. They punished her. They said she was killing people. She was a monster that no one must go close to. What did Winnie do? As they harassed her, as they punished her for doing a job of man, she stayed loyal to them. She said, I'm the ANC. I can't imagine myself outside the ANC. Everybody, including arrivalists, got positions, got blue lights, got big checks, got big houses. They moved into the white suburbs. She remained in the township. She never got all of those things, including being imprisoned in solitary confinement in a cell alone. Because they wanted to break her loyalty. I'm telling you about her because you ought to know what is discipline and loyalty. Discipline is not only when you are a chair, when you are leading, when things go nice. Your test of patience and discipline, your test of loyalty is when you think the organization is not treating you right. Now we want to see if you are loyal for real. Some of you say, I can even kill for this EFF because you are still an MP. The day you get removed as an MP, you start insulting the EFF. Look at Winnie Mandela. All names called on her. She remained a member. Then she dies. I go fetch that monster from a mortuary. As we drive her back home, when we pass the houses of Soweto, I see grannies coming out of their houses with chairs, sitting outside their yards. lining up the streets of Soweto. And they were saluting and waving their goodbyes as the mortuary van was passing. Grannies were saying goodbye. I'm like, why would these people do this? Because we were told this is the most hated person. This person was a reject of the ANC. No one wants her. No one put a gun on those grannies. No one put a gun on those people of Soweto because of a loyalty and discipline to the struggle for the revolution. The people knew their leaders. And history did not wait for Winnie Mandela to get big lecturers to come and lecture for her. Immediately when she died, ENCA reported rubbish about her. The people of South Africa stood up in less than 30 minutes and said, you stop that nonsense. You are not going to talk nonsense about Winnie when we are here. Winnie, we know her. We don't need the white ENCA to tell us about Winnie. The story changed immediately because people knew their leaders. When we went to bury her on our way to the graveyard, the N1 on the right cars were allowed to pass. On our side, cars were blocked. Only the escort to the graveyard was allowed to move. It was raining, heavy rain. The cars which were allowed to move on the right to the direction of Soweto stopped on their own under heavy rains, took out their phones to film the motorcade that was going to the graveyard, saluted under rain. You can't say these people don't have anything to do. They've got something to do. They are driving somewhere. But their leader was passing. Their leader was going to be buried. They saw it befitting that they must stand under the rain and salute one of their own. I never cried when Winnie died because I knew that one day all of us are going to die. But when we turned into four ways, black and white, including white children, stood under the rain, saluting the hash that was carrying Winnie Mandela. And I was like, I was told growing up, this woman is hated by all, West white people. Why? The people love someone who has got a cause and has got his or her own conviction. Stand for something. Don't have a spaghetti backbone. You ought to be firm in your conviction and believe in your cause. And it doesn't matter what's going to happen tomorrow, but your ideas will never be shattered by your enemies. So, you fighters, you are the best generation to learn from the best of the best. We are products of the best of the best. I don't fear anything, neither do I fear death. The only thing I'm fearful of is failure. I don't want to fail in life. Why should the EFF fail? Why should the idea of economic freedom fail? When those people in the townships of Mangaung are looking up to the red beret. When you live here, go and ask a 10-year-old, when you turn 18, which party are you going to vote for? They will tell you EFF. But you are here, wanting to kill the EFF, shattering the dreams of that 10-year-old. When she turns 18, now is a time to vote for the EFF. There is no longer EFF because he died during the third PPA. Think of that child. Think of the mothers who stay in the squatter camps in Khayelitsha in Langa. Think of the people who stay in the rural areas in the Eastern Cape. When it rains, a car cannot access those roads. What happens? Pregnancy never says today it's raining, you can't give birth. On a rainy day, the water breaks, you are ready to deliver. For some reason you've got an airtime, you call an ambulance. The ambulance comes. It was raining, it can't get into the village. It can't get into the squatter camps. We have to carry you from here to the main road. The only way to carry you is to put you in a wheelbarrow. Everybody's in a shack. It's only you and your boy child. Hey, bring the wheelbarrow. Push it on your way there. The wheelbarrow gets stuck. As the wheelbarrow gets stuck, you call a young man, hold here, it's about time. I'm going to give birth right here under rain, right here in a wheelbarrow. Those people, when they see the EFF, they're like, this is where our hope comes from. When there's no wheelbarrow, they give birth in the shacks, assisted by their boy children. These children grow up very angry. They have no respect for life because they got exposed to wrong things at an early age. When they kill with ease, with no sense of life, no one asks a psychological question as to what happened to these children. They've never learned to respect life because they've never been young. After giving birth, the council of the EFF walks in with a red beret, with a baggie, says, no, let's take the child to the hospital, see if he's fine. They must check the child. Without saying anything, they look at that beret and say, it looks like our life will come from this. Think of those people before you think of your over-exaggerated ego and self-importance, that it is my way or highway. Even if you don't like me, even if you don't like her, does she love the EFF? When we call for posters to be hanged, is she there? When we call for door-to-door to be done, is she there? When we ask someone to write a best letter to the municipality, are we not calling on her to write the best letter? But today, we want a provincial secretary. All of a sudden, she's not a good person because you and her have got personal problems. At the center of it must be one question and one question only. Does she love the EFF? If the answer is yes, then she qualifies to be the leader of the EFF. Don't elect friends into positions of power. That is the beginning of the death of the organization. Because when it is time for the minutes to be read to the PCT, because your friends but hey man umputsa ngwena agere ne re le khubana mawan ke tlanga ka di minutes ne re le ka ofela khubana, then the organization deteriorate. We don't have to be friends with Marshal Dlamini. We have to be leaders of the EFF, and each one of us must execute his or her responsibility. Failure to do so will lead us into confrontation. Even if you are friends, I can tell you, the fact that your friend is not delivering minutes, you are going to kill each other. Because amongst you, as your friends, there will be those who love the EFF more than this friendship. Before we know it, the PCT is divided, they are fighting, they are no longer friends because of laziness and because of choosing of friends into positions. Comrades, we have a long way to go. Today, we are told, Talimpofu, when you come here and still think we have a time to hate each other, when there are so many people who hate us, when there are so many people, system itself is designed to hate black people. Today we are told Dalimpofu, an African senior advocate, must tell us how much did the public protector give to him. Public protector's office. But there was a white man there in Zondo Commission, who was a lead advocate called Paul Pretorius. He was paid 38,000 per day. And that commission lasted for how many years? 5 years? 5 years per day. 38,000. We have not been told about these juniors. No one, not this African journalist, no one has ever asked, how much is Paul Pretorius paid? Today we must answer the question, how much is Dalimpofu being paid? Because he's an African man representing an African woman. Money like that cannot be spent on Africans. Dalimpofu has not stolen anyone's money. Dalimpofu did his job. They should be saying to us, Dalimpofu was paid this money, yet he didn't do the job. That is not the problem. Dalimpofu charges according to how senior councils charges. It's a crime today because it's committed by a black man. There is Paul O'Sullivan, a white man who goes on TV, interviewed by Sakina Kwamendo. He harasses that African woman, drops a phone on her, speaks to her like he's speaking to a little girl. No one has said anything because Paul O'Sullivan is the most racist, powerful white man. They are all scared of him. Because an African female is being harassed. No one knows. There is some Mickey Mouse organization called SANEF. What a fraudster. Is controlled by whites, is funded by whites, including George Soros and all these whites who control and collapse African governments, finance SANEF, which is supposed to protect editors and journalists. A journalist is abused by a white man because it's a white man, is acceptable. Today, we are sitting here with a president that we found millions and millions of dollars under the mattress. Those millions that were found in the mattress, because he's a favorite of white people and Paul O'Sullivan is working with him. No, we are now being taught that there is an acceptable crime. You see, this one of Palapala. It's not like that one of Nkanda, you see. Then there were those, when we were removing Zuma, there were those veterans called 100 and something veterans, and all these priests, NGOs were all making noise and say we can't have a criminal president. Today, we found a president who's a real criminal, who kidnaps, who keeps money in his house, who violates his oath of office. No, there's nothing wrong because he's a favorite of white capital and is handled by Paul O'Sullivan. All those elders and pastors, when he took out the money, when the churches took out the money under the mattress, those pastors and elders went under the same mattress because we can't find them anywhere. They are now hiding because their favorite is now exposed. That's why now I don't listen to this hypocrites of a pastor, bishop, nonsense. I don't have time for nonsense. Because I know that these are crooks that are getting money from white capital and they only speak against those that they don't agree with. There is no bishop in this country. There is no pastor in this country. There is no elder in this country who has ever called me to his office or home or my office and say, I want to see you. Because they know that I'm telling the truth. When he comes to my office, when he finishes, I'm going to say, no, pastor, before we even go far, let's start here. What did you say when on this one? On this one? On this one? They will never come to me because I've no time for hypocrites. Crime is crime. Seated there, ask yourself a question. If these millions were found under Malema'S mattress, what was going to happen in this country? Then once you find the answer, then you will know that we are not equal in South Africa. Others are more equal than others. So don't use newspapers to judge your leaders. Don't use newspapers to analyze the material condition in society. Newspapers are owned by the Oppenheimers and the Ruperts and all the rich whites in South Africa. Their job is to sell us fake news. They lie a lot and have no backbone. They can't even stand for their own when their own is being abused by a white male who's a favorite of the establishment. Fighters, here in Free State, no one can afford to be xenophobic here. Here, no one can afford to call any foreigner a kwere. Because we've got so many relatives in Lesotho. Ogaba Toma when. Watoma, we don't want foreigners. Your history is not too long. Our talk very soon. Or when your father actually came 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. You are not originally from here. So please, we are one thing with the people of Lesotho, with the people of Mozambique, with the people of Zimbabwe, with the people of all over Africa, because black is beautiful. Oskaba ntlela more ba re nkela mesebetsi ba mesebetsi e feng le lwanela o sebetsa ko lekgoeng, all of you are pulling each other. Hey, kana le lwanelang mesebetsi e le fang ke mang ke monna wa lekgowa le lwanela o bereka lekgowa. In the EFF arlwanela o sebetsa lekgowa. We are fighting to own the means of production and work for ourselves. Why? Batho ba lwana le bona ba Lesotho, batho ba lwana le bona ba Zimbabwe, aba own le fast, aba own bank, aba own the mine, aba own the insurance company. They are like me and you, but you can afford to fight them. I've never heard you saying you march to the owner of the bank. Worse, you don't even know who is the owner of the bank. Amalemar reka owner the bank, for sure you are even shocked. Yo, banker. Is that possible? That's how much you hate yourself. That's how much you lack self-confidence. We want to own the banks. We want to own the land. We want to employ white people. And they must feel how it feels to work for another person. You are fighting over crumbs. The real bread is being eaten by the white master. And it is the white master who make you fight over crumbs. We are all struggling. And what is even worse if you don't know, but including our domestic workers, abana di squatter camp, by the way. And these domestic workers of ours, go Lesotho. When out abura mutu wa tswang ko Lesotho wa nang in a better condition than you. Hey, asepele atama man. Ore hey mazimbabwe a re tšela mesebetsi, mazimbabwe a re tšela ora English teacher, ora mathematics teacher, ora o tšela mosebetsi no re utlwile a re ntše mathematics teacher o re kenye wena yo. How na metso to teach more. So be careful what you are inviting. American economy was brought up and made what it is by immigrants who went to work there. Americans still today, once they identify a skill in someone else, all over the world, and that skill they don't have it, they come to poach that person and take that person to America. That on arrival, they give you green card because you've got talent. These Zimbabweans and Nigerians that we hate so much, why can't we identify from them what is it that they are good with, that we can tap in and make our economy a better economy? Remember, in Zimbabwe, there was no Bantu education because there were not too many whites there. Ian Smith had to teach both black and white the same education because that economy needed more skilled people and they didn't have more whites. That's why they educated the blacks the same way. So when you deal with Zimbabweans, remember those are the people who never received inferior education. When AfriForum says to you, don't give 50 million to Cuba, Cuba is the one that came to help Angola and fought successfully in Kutokanaval when the Portuguese left and the apartheid South Africa wanted to invade Angola. The Cubans came and defeated apartheid South Africa. It retreated, and part of the conditions of ceasefire in Kutokanaval in Angola was what the Cubans said, that you must give freedom to the black people in South Africa and you must allow the return of the ANC back into the country. Only then we'll retreat back to Cuba and leave Angola. There is no camp of MK that did not have a Cuban commander who was training MK soldiers. There is no camp of MK that did not have a Cuban doctor to come and look after the liberation fighters who were being prepared to come and fight for our freedom. What is 50 million under the sun when the people were prepared to put their children in line to die for our freedom? Now we're in power, we say to Cuba, thank you very much for being a good friend. We know that America has imposed an illegal embargo in Cuba. You can't survive. Here is 50 million. Who stand up first? AfriForum says this money must be stopped. Why? Because Cuba eba shapile bontate moholo ba bona le montata bona ko khutokona ba betha le buru la bua le matha mo South Africa. So they are still angry with Cuba for what Cuba did to Afrikaner soldiers in Kutokanavan. We're now busy mo kama utwa masetla mo Twitter. Honyo honyo, you can't give Cuba money, honyo honyo. You don't know what is Cuba. Mareba kare refer America 50,000. Oh, what a nice hey. America, our own enemy. Our own enemy. This mess of colonialism, imperialism, and apartheid is sponsored from there. But you don't know your friends. Today, UN voted that America must uplift the embargo in Cuba. America uses its financial muscle to UN, uses its military capacity, uses its veto power to overrule the majority of countries that said Cuba must be free. We are not free if Cuba is not free. Our friends are in China. The Communist Party of China is what we want to make South Africa. South Africa must be like China and have people working and producing for themselves. China never fought with them. They hate China because it has taken charge of its own economy. The Chinese Communist Party just finished its successful conference. We congratulate them, and they must know in us they've got friends. Ethiopia, the war has been stopped. In Tigray, lots of bodies have been killed there in Ethiopia of black people. African Union has intervened. Even though they are late, we appreciate the peace in Ethiopia. But there is a war coming in DRC and Rwanda. DRC and Rwanda, black people are about to kill each other. The African Union should be in DRC and Rwanda now and calling for ceasefire. Africans must stop using weapons on Africans. We must find peaceful, lasting solutions to a possible war in DRC and Rwanda. We must never be known as people who can think, who can reason, who use weapons to resolve differences. Whatever is happening between Rwanda, between DRC, Tshisekedi, and Rwanda, we want them to find a lasting solution. Guns must be silenced in Africa. Rebels that we see today are not like the rebels of yesterday which were fighting colonial powers. The rebels of today are sponsored by colonialists and imperialists to destabilize the countries in Africa so that they can come and steal our mineral resources in the African continent. Therefore, we will never support rebels without a cause. We may not be happy with this or that government, but changing government through coup is an unacceptable practice that the EFF will not tolerate. If you think you've got a point, if you think the people are with you, stand for election and win the elections. Do not use guns to kill each other, because the victims of such war is black people, and will never celebrate the death of black people. Fighters, the conference is about to end. We are now going into the voting of additionals. Once it's done, back to work. When you leave here, no manga business. We want 1 million members by December, and we don't have time. We must make sure that that branch where you stopped recruiting because you wanted to reach quorum, you must go back. Quorum is done now. We want our numbers, because 1 million members means 1 million ground forces in 2024. So this year we were recruiting them. Next year we are politicizing them. We are transferring quantity into quality, and that quality must go and hit each and every house, each and every factory, each and every school, each and every campus. They must have members of the EFF. If you pass a house and you hear them talking by mistake that in this house they are members of the ANC, or we need members of the EFF as well. Wherever you see the ANC having an activity or something, you must also do an activity unplanned. Because ANC must be taken toe for toe everywhere else where we see them. You are the alternative. You are almost close to the finishing line. It all depends on you. It all depends on how you carry yourself. It all depends on how much time you dedicate to the EFF. Because it is that time that you dedicate to the EFF which will tell us whether we are going to emerge or not. We are making history in 2024. History was made in 1994. History will repeat itself in 2024, and the Free State leadership, the Free State branches, the Free State EFF must be part of history in 2024. We want to at the forefront of that history in 2024. Amandla! Amandla! Viva EFF, viva! Hayule EFF, hayule! Tata EFF, tata! Tata EFF, tata! Tula EFF, Free State, hula! Forward to unity, forward! Awe mushwa mashodu, awe! Awe mushwa mashodu, awe! awunoma kubi siyaya siyaya noma kubi siyaya siyaya noma besedubolas besishaya besibopha noma besedubolas besishaya besibopha noma kubi siyaya siyaya noma kubi siyaya siyaya noma besedubola besishaya besibopha noma besedubola besishaya besibopha. Who left? Who right? You my son. Who left? Guitar. Kill a man. Kill wata. Samarumo. Rumo. Asicha. Where were you when I'm shit? Where were you when I'm dream? So fast kitchen. Emoye. So fast kitchen. Letati. Kichima. Kichima. Sibram Kondo Alliance. Sibram Kondo Alliance. Shoot to kill. Yamasan. Shoot to kill. Kill a man. Kiss the boer. The farmer. Kiss the boer. The farmer. Brr, pa. Brr, pa. Tension.
Thank you very much, President. Fighters, sekhulumile umongameli. Ngiyazi ukuthi uhleli usendleleni ubusy. So I'm going to ask a fighter to lead us with a song as we're going to allow the president ukuthi sikwazi ukuthi simkhulule ngoba thina siyaqhubeka nomsebenzi wakithi. So let's go, fighter, lead us with a song as we're preparing to release the president and the commander-in-chief. Ngoba usekhulumile umlomo wathethi imanga. Now all of us must go to the ground and continue working. Oza fighter, lead us. Let's go.
Hema guliwe ma, hema guliwe, hema guliwe, hema guliwe, hema guliwe, guteni besilela kangaka. Hema guliwe, kuteni besilela kangaka. Hema guliwe ma, hema guliwe, hema guliwe, hema guliwe, hema guliwe ma. Kuteni besilela kangaka.
yamaguliwe ma kuteni beselela kanga yamaguliwe ma guliwe guliwe yamaguliwe guliwe guliwe yamaguliwe kuteni beselela kanga yamaguliwe kuteni beselela kanga yamaguliwe guliwe guliwe yamaguliwe guliwe guliwe yamaguliwe kuteni beselela kanga yamaguliwe kuteni beselela kanga yamaguliwe